What the hell was Raw Underground, Luke?
I don't know, mate.
So it's like a Fight Club thing.
Yeah. A little bit like a Fight Club. But is it a separate promotion from Raw? Like, is it a WWE sanctioned thing? So it's like a legal Fight Club.
Where is it?
I mean, wrestling really is sort of a Fight Club of its own, really. You do show up to work and fight each other.
Is it under the building?
Well, the name would certainly suggest that, yeah, it is underground.
Because spatially, in the setup shots for Raw Underground, shown earlier in the night, there was a guy standing outside a door, what looked like a normal... I'm very sure I've seen that door before, like a normal dressing room door.
Hmm.
And then it was hinted at later, through that door was this Fight Club.
Who was the lad with the drinks? Who ordered the drinks?
That's a good point.
Because he was turned away. So if someone did order the drinks inside, they didn't get their drinks. Which then, if you look at it from the other side then, who sent the drinks to go in there? And then the lad had to take those drinks back and say, they didn't want the drinks.
Why is Shane McMahon there?
Well, he's not been on TV for a while, I guess. You got to keep yourself busy somehow. Maybe this is since October. This is what he's been planning.
Welcome to the Raw Review, folks. I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luke Owen, and we are asking, what the hell is going on with Raw Underground? This was a segment that was, it wasn't announced in advance. Just a few hours before the show went on air, WWE's Twitter account started saying, hey, Shane McMahon's going to be on the show. And everyone was like, sorry, what now?
Mm-hmm.
But that's come out of nowhere. Yeah. And it wasn't to make a big announcement. It wasn't that he was going to have his thoughts on like a pre-existing feud. It was just that he's been working on something.
Yes, I was going to say, are you trying to say that Raw Underground was not a big announcement?
Well, I think an announcement would be coming out into the ring and saying, this is what I'm doing.
Like Mick Foley did last year.
Yeah, I never got that level of clarification.
No.
It just, like in the first 2 hours, there was a few teases. In the first hour, it was all the like, oh, look at this mysterious door with the giant. I think he was the giant ninja guy. I didn't get a good look at him, really.
No, I think it was just a different security man.
Just a different, enormous guy.
Babatunde was in there. He's a big, enormous guy. They've been signing big, enormous guys for the last time.
This is Vince McMahon's private collection of big, enormous guys that he hasn't even let go to NXT.
He just measures them next to like the big T-Rex skull that he's got in his office and be like, oh, is you as big as that? Hey, you're signed.
So that's the first bit of teasers. Then the second hour, like out of nowhere, out of freaking nowhere, the cat, there's this here's Kevin Owens talking to the Iconics backstage. And then it cuts to Shane McMahon in what looks like some gay rave club with loads of guys getting down to it, just mat wrestling in the ground. And Shane McMahon's got the microphone freestand in his hand. And he's like going, right, yeah, it's a fight. It's underground. Raw's coming to you underground soon at 10 p.m. And I'm like, what? This is it? I laughed out loud.
Oh my God.
What was your first reaction?
Fits of hysterics. Like I burst into laughter, and then I ran my head and be like, "What is this?" I was explaining this to my wife this morning, and just started laughing again. And she just sort of like, "Oh, it does sound a bit sad." And I was like, "Yeah, it was a bit." You know, the dancers. and this is what really hit me. You know, the dancers they had. So if you're not seeing the show, Raw Underground's got lady dancers there. All I could think of was this.
Would you like me to lap dance for you?
Yeah, it's so that bit came a bit later because then it says like after the break. I think it was after the Banks Baszler segment stuff and Asuka's promo. It says after the break we've got Raw Underground coming for you. And I'm like, okay, well I think I know what Raw Underground is, and you know we'll get into this shortly. I don't hate the idea.
No, not at all.
I actually quite like the idea. In fact, if you go back to the early days of lockdown, I was pretty much pitching this idea. But I think the execution was a bit whiffy.
That is exactly it. Like my notes read, this is actually quite cool, but Shane McMahon is making this incredibly uncool. Like he's the most uncool person that you could have put in charge of this. Like it would have been only slightly more awkward if it was Kurt Angle. Like Kurt Angle sort of awkwardly standing there, not really getting people's names right.
Yeah.
Showing no emotion.
But yeah, well, Kurt Angle wouldn't make any sense though. Shane McMahon is a legit tough guy. He went toe to toe with AJ Styles
and the Undertaker. He went toe to toe with the Undertaker in Hell in a Cell. Like, you know,
he's a legit tough guy. He's an MMA expert. Everyone knows that.
Best in the world.
So yeah, it cuts to Shane McMahon, and there is not Babatunde, who's got a fantastic look. By the way,
he's awesome, right?
Yeah,
he's
really
cool.
He's like a scary Funkasaurus.
Yeah, this is what the Funkasaurus wanted his gimmick to be. Like when. Every time he was pitching the character, this is the character that he kept pitching.
In the same 5 days that Cameron made her return, like her wrestling return over in AEW.
She was on the show. She was on the AEW show last night, which I've watched almost all of.
How is it?
It's you know, I don't mind it, mate. It's some of it's quite good.
Jericho built up the Nyla Rose. Is it Nyla Rose and Cameron versus Anna Jay and
Ty Conte.
Taynara Conti. He said on Instagram over the weekend, man, it's a good show. It's a really good match. They blew me away. I listened to Dave Meltzer's review earlier and he went, it was bad. That match was so bad.
I think it was because that's the match I've not finished yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, did I watch that match? Is that the one I've already seen? Hold on 1 second. I've still got the thing open.
Well, while you do that, so Babatunde is now called Dabba Kato. Pretty cool name. I like Kato. Kato's got those Greek vibes to it. And the I don't know who he was fighting, but the setup is, it's like a canvas, but a pretty grimy looking canvas. You've got loads of people in that sort of Fight Club attire, so white vests, just jeans. Everything looks quite grubby. I thought like Pete, sometimes film theorists talk about the visual texture of a film, and it felt grimy. Like I felt like there was a grimy, grainy feel to the presentation. I thought that was massively undone, however, by the Kevin Dunn production tactics, where it's loads of camera shots, crash zooms, and this weird club music playing underneath throughout.
The music, man. It didn't stop. Oh, I think Ollie Davis is actually frozen. He's been having a lot of internet troubles today. And what a frame for him to pause on as well. I mean, let's see what some of the comments you've got. This is...
Oh, no. Let me get out of this. I'm back. Oh no, what have I done? Can everyone see me? Now Luke's frozen? I can't believe we've... Luke was the frozen one. So I was just sitting there normally. Okay. Well, it was Luke that crashed out. I didn't kick Luke, Rish Kalisha now. Okay, well, I will continue with my review of the show. Hey, I wish I could blame this on some kind of Molotov cocktail attack to the router, but no such luck. So yeah, Dabba-Kato, he sort of just, but you can see the sort of bad production levels. We've only got a backdrop that covers the middle part of the shot where I'm framed. So yeah, the visual feel was I thought was a really cool presentation, but unfortunately, yeah, it's this Kevin Dunn style production tactics where everything's going really, really, really fast and that the cutting rate is obnoxiously quick. And you've got this pulsating dance club music in the background. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it cuts from Shane McMahon doing the intro.
Hey, sorry,
Hey.
I totally blamed you for that as well, but I think it was me that went out.
Yeah, just let me finish my point. And
Right.
it goes from this sort of Shane McMahon intro thing and the pulsating music to this shot of three scantily clad, they were strippers. They weren't exotic dancers. And it was just, but on AEW, because I know people will probably bring this up, I haven't seen anyone yet, but for, say, the Bash at the Beach and the Fighter Fest stuff, they had women in bikinis.
Oh yeah, Louis did.
Yeah, around ringside. And I was like, it's not for me, but I didn't feel offended by it. This one, I did feel offended. Not offended. No, offense is the wrong word. I just felt a bit embarrassed.
Yes. I mean, I felt quite embarrassed for the Bash of the Beach ones as well. I thought it was slightly out of place in 2020. But at least when they did it with Fighter Fest, it was kind of like a parody of it at the same time, because Fighter Fest in itself was this sort of like sad endeavor. And Fighter Fest, the whole gimmick around it was supposed to be this kind of like, it was this sort of madman's creation in Kenny Omega. Here, though, this felt like what was cool in the 90s, which is, pretty much where all of their cultural touchstones finish. And they were like, whoa, it's scantily clad girls. It felt like, do you remember like the first episode of the WWE ECW, where they had Kelly doing strip teases and stuff. And they were like, hey, guys, look cool, right? Strippers, yeah? Men, ooh, hey, lasses, right? And it, as I said, it felt like the Alan Partridge, would you like me to lap dance for you? It was just a bit sad.
Yeah, so the music, the production tactics, and the lady dancers aside, I liked the presentation. I thought the matches were really quite dramatic. They weren't really matches, they were squashes. It'd be one big person just pummeling on someone else. There was no back and forth in any of the encounters. We had Babatunde, we had Eric of the Viking Raiders just annihilate someone.
It's the coolest he's looked since NXT.
You know why? Because they're not playing Vikings.
No, they're not.
Isn't that a shock?
Exactly. They were just being like cool badasses. And it made the Hurt Business look amazing at the end.
Yeah. So there was also, I liked how the Hurt Business. So the Hurt Business had a bad night, really. MVP lost his self-proclaimed United States Championship at the start of the show. Sheldon Benjamin lost the 24/7 title to Akira Tozawa. So they've lost a lot, and they've lost all their titles. And then at the end, but all the time, like Charlie Caruso's running up to them and saying, oh, what do you think about your losses? You're so rubbish, aren't you? Screw you guys. And MVP's like, whoa. Why isn't anyone talking about the freaking Fight Club that's next door? Or the people who are trying to take Raw down by throwing Molotov cocktails? And I thought, MVP's the only guy I respect here, because the commentary team, this was another big part that I didn't like about the way Underground was presented. You'd have an Underground segment, and then it would cut to Tom Phillips, and he'd go, wow.
Well, I mean, yeah,
That's
so
something.
I was going to say, it was either cutting back to him going like, well, that sure was something, or it was cutting back to him going, well, that was cool. I don't know about you, but that's cool.
Yeah, it was that there's nothing less cool than Tom Phillips and Michael Cole.
Than Shane McMahon.
Yes, yeah. So with the Hurt, so what happened at the end is the Hurt Business kind of, I in my head, it can work two ways. They lost on the show, the main part of Raw, but that took them to another place, and they were kind of putting people over on the way out of normal Raw. And then They looked genuinely badass in the underground segment at the end. That was the main event bit where each guy beat up someone. One of them was Dio Madden, of all people.
He's back.
And that like MVP sort of declares themselves as the big guys around here. They run this joint now. Business is good. And then Shane McMahon pops up. Isn't that great? You really are cool. At the bottom. And I was like, oh my God. You're right. Why is Shane McMahon on this at all? Why is this not an MVP creation?
Yeah, well, and you're absolutely right. But it's because Shane's the draw, right? We've said this for the last few weeks. When the ratings go down, you go to Steve Austin reunion shows or a McMahon, and that's what they've done with. They haven't got with Vince, so they've gone with Shane because he's the cool one of the McMahon family. So Shane's gone out there to be Shane legit feels like the sort of guy that would want to run this and would think that he was so cool and quite well suited to this sort of place as well. So it sort of feels like his sort of mad reality. So yeah, in that sense, in sort of that stasis, it does make sense that Shane McMahon was the one that came up with Raw Underground, even though he's incredibly uncool and made the dancers and the music made it so uncool.
Yeah, I totally agree. But as we know, this has been his thing for ages. He wanted to take over that original ECW and present it in more of a shoot style way. He wanted to, I think he wants to buy the UFC. He's always wanted to get into that area and be an MMA fight promoter. He trains a lot in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think is the specific part he trains in. But, he fights, bro. So one last question before we get into the super chats on this, because there's a lot of you are watching right now, and a lot of you have sent in comments on Raw Underground.
You have got thoughts.
Does having Raw Underground actually undermine the rest of the program? Because if you're saying, hey, these are real fights, and then on the rest of the show, you've got sports entertainment fights, are you not theoretically exposing everything as a work?
Yeah, but we've been through this before, and I just don't think they care at this point. And I honestly don't think they gave that any modicum of thought. They were just like, smagging hell, ratings are in the toilet, and we've just told our investors that we're going to turn this ship around. I can't fire Bruce, and he's the only person I've got left to fire. So what have we got left? We'll bring Shane McMahon back, and we'll do... okay, let's be honest. This isn't going to be here in 4 weeks' time. This is not going to be on the show in 3 weeks' time. This is Mick Foley's dark hour of Raw or whatever it was. This is Corey Graves' electric chair. This will be gone soon enough. And I get the feeling that it will be gone to debut this new faction. I think they will use Underground to launch this new faction that they've got, and then they'll be the ones that kind of close down Underground, and then they will kind of launch themselves off the back of it.
Kind of like Lance Archer in AEW. His first video packages were this sort of backyard fight club as opposed to an underground one. And it was very similarly presented in sort of concept. But yeah, that was just really to build Lance, although I would love to see more of that world. So yeah, I guess actually one last thing before we get on with the super chats. What is your take on it then? Was it a success? What's your thoughts?
It was designed to get people talking, and it got people talking. So from that aspect, I would say that it was a bit of a home run success, because when I woke up this morning, I watched the show, I went onto the old Twitter machine, everyone was talking about Raw Underground. And you know what? I haven't seen people talking about the third hour of Raw for some time to this degree, right? So in that sense, I guess it was a win. It kind of worked. But I'm also sitting here with a bit of a cynical mind, because this is not the first time that WWE have done sort of this. Oh no, the third hour is really bad. Rather than remove it, we'll just make it something else. And then they get bored of it quite quickly, because I'm so interested to see what the third hour numbers are tonight. Because if the third hour numbers are still bad, then they're not going to carry on doing it, because they're like, well, that didn't work. We'll just see what's next. This whole episode was just throw everything at a wall and we'll just see what sticks. Before I get to your thoughts on it as well, I did want to read this out from Mike Sempervive from Figure 4, who said, not counting the Bobby Lashley and MVP deal at the end of the show, there were 4 Raw Underground fights. They lasted a combined 1 minute 57 seconds. There were 79 camera cuts during the whole thing.
Oh my God. That's more than 1 every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. Well, big problem. I think that's definitely that, and the way it fits in with the rest of Raw, definite bad. However, my thoughts, yes, I think there's something here. Like I said, at the start of lockdown, I said, look, you're not going to get in new viewers right now. So now's a time to sort of satisfy who you've still got watching and maybe try out some new stuff. Take a new approach to creating a wrestling product without fans. Because what this format does is it actually, social distancing be damned, it does make it feel... I wasn't in there going, well, this is missing an audience, because it's a completely different way of presenting it. So I really like that. I think there is the best version of this would have been the Hurt Business debuting it, and crucially, it should have been a whole uninterrupted hour, and that should be the 10 to 11.
Yeah, I was also going to say, I think it should have been cinematic. So you don't do this in the Kevin Dunn style, because that really hurts it. You can then kind of, I mean, the porno music didn't work either. The dancers didn't work. But at least if you done it in a cinematic style, it probably wouldn't have felt quite so jarring. I also wouldn't have had Shane McMahon do it as well. Like,
yeah.
Very, very bad.
Unfortunately, if you're optimistic, all the power to you. I wish I was you. But I see this with the experience of everything Luke's gone listed, with the Raw third hour, the darker one before, the electric chair, wild card rule. We've had so many false starts from WWE that it's so difficult to get excited when they try something new, because they inevitably drop it within 3 weeks. It's not even long enough to just appreciate it in passing. So I would just, if you're sort of forgetting all those other gimmicks, because I certainly did before I wrote the script this morning, this is an NXT call-up. Sure, there's a thing here in the moment in the episode, but in 3 weeks' time, in a month's time, do you really think they've got a plan for this?
Oh God, no.
Exactly.
Absolutely not. Just before the super chats as well, do apologize for my stream cutting out. I as I said, from my side, it looked like you had frozen in quite the position as well. So I was like, oh no, because you said you'd had bad internet all morning. I was like, oh man, Ollie Davis's internet is cut out. And because I had Brandon cut out yesterday during the WrestleTalk Clips interview I did with him, I was like, 2 days, man. I've had people, and then I was like, oh no, it's me. Oh no, it's me that's gone. Well, at least people won't have heard me saying that it was Ollie that cut out. And then I just saw all of these comments coming, being like, no, Luke, it's you. I was like,
yeah, I can still hear you. Well,
now
if
I'm
only
like an idiot.
If only Vince could also realize he's the problem, like you have so boldly done there. So, super chats, we've got a bunch of them. We've also got an insane episode of Raw, even if you move Underground out of it. So let's try and hammer through.
I just had to scroll down the document to see how many super chats there are. Crikey.
Yeah.
Oh, you got people talking.
Yeah. So, and thank you to Bumhead. Oh no, Bumhead Rob is not doing the doc here, but our moderator has put in a mishmash of fonts, which is just disgusting, laid out next to each other.
And colours.
So everyone getting your super chats, we will read out every single one of them on this show. Zachary Jenkins, was that Lucha Underground without a budget?
Imagine that. WWE is being described as Lucha Underground without a budget.
Michael Dominguez, I was like, WTF? But Bobby got up and saw it, plays into his MMA, could do the same with other MMA talent, give stories without storylines. Dolph looked great. That's another thing. Dolph Ziggler got a match, and I sort of forgot that he's a legit collegiate athlete.
Yeah, but like the Eric thing, like I did say Eric looked cool, but at the end of it, I don't know, does it do anything for them? Am I going to look at Dolph next week and be like, oh man, look, there's badass Dolph? Maybe that's more of a problem I've got with Dolph more than the presentation of him here.
No, I think that is a problem though. Like, how do you go from this into WWE world? What happens when two actual main roster stars come up against each other in this format? I can't see a way out of it. Colby Dennis, I could get behind Underground if the Hurt Business replaced that instead of VIP Lounge from the start. Shane's involvement was just confusing to me. Exactly what we've said already. Vandalia, 1998. Does Shane's return and creation of Raw Underground make him a face or a heel?
What? Oh, huh. What an excellent question. I don't know.
I think he is a face, but come on, WWE evolved past that kind of storytelling long ago. It's all shades of grey. Danny Average. Okay, so I guess Vince missed out on Lucha Underground. Screw it. Let's make a WWE version.
I was going to say, the things I have seen are a lot of people say, like, it's the Shikara thing. Oh, it's Lucha Underground. Guarantee you, none of the people who made the decision to do this have ever seen those shows.
Yeah, Bruce Pritchard did not watch Lucha Underground.
It's like, oh, they've just ripped off EC3's thing. I was like, guys, they haven't seen EC3's thing. They don't know what it is. Vince didn't even know who EC3 was, and he bloody signed him.
So they did. I can't remember his name now, but just a couple of months ago, they had one of the creators of Lucha Underground on their production staff. One of the lead writers on SmackDown, Krista Joseph, was his name.
Yeah.
So, like, this is so last minute. It didn't even come from him. Chocobo Kid, Shane McMahon, is there to prove how hot the action of Raw Underground is by his sweaty self.
Oh, that's great.
He was sweaty. Nins Entertainment. What in the beep is Vince smoking? I need that S word. Spencer O. I wonder if Survivor Series will be Team Underground versus Team WWE.
I'm also, am I the only one who still has got Going Underground stuck in their head? Like every time I see it, I'm like, Going Underground.
Going Underground. Monty Granito. Raw Underground is Lance Archer's backyard promo with strippers. I would rather Jake be there. Yeah. Kevin, about Raw Underground. I think the idea is great, especially with the Hurt Business interfering and introducing Babatunde and Dio. I was hoping he would do a better job, but Shane and the really bad dancers made it so bad.
I'm going to put money on this, and I'm going to ask Louis, actually, to speak to some of his sources there. Did they know that was Dio Madden? Did they know that was former Raw commentator Dio Madden? They were just like, "You're a big lad, you get in." And he was I used to do commentary on this show. They're like, "No, you didn't, kid. Get in there."
No one mentioned it on commentary either. No. Jose Quinde. Underground is run by a certain group while hip hop beats play in the background. Okay, and Bob becomes Underground champion. Am I looking too much into it? What? Just that the Hurt Business are running it? I thought that was kind of.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Jose is getting at on that one, I'm afraid.
The Big Dog 2383 Acosta. Maybe Underground is supposed to be what SmackDown was meant to be when SmackDown was supposed to be more of a sports-based product. LOL.
God, could you imagine?
I would never call that a sports-based product. It was a movie.
Yeah,
is what they did.
But a really badly made one.
Yeah, like one of the ones that's on Netflix. And you're like, oh, that looks quite good. An East End gangster bare knuckle boxing movie. I'll watch. Oh my god, this is from a DVD 50 grand budget low rent thing. Caleb Maldonado trying to stay positive because of some unfortunate news last night, but they should have had Nicholas in the Underground beating everyone up.
Oh, that's how you finish this off.
Monty Granito, the girls on Bash at the Beach, they were sitting in a chair versus simulated pole dancing. Underground felt like a set from the movie Ready to Rumble.
Yeah, you want to talk about badly made movies? There it is, mate.
Ben Sneeringer, if Underground fights were produced like Scott Pilgrim battles, mwah, yes, please. They would be so much better, in my opinion. I'll just do a few. Oh, actually,
Daniel Bryan could definitely win with his vegan powers.
Yes. Dan Partridge. It's the stuff that makes me embarrassed to watch.
Yeah, I think so. Like, that is a word to use here, because I think if someone had come in and seen me watching that, particularly with Shane, with the music and with the dancers, I would have been quite embarrassed to, as a man in my mid-30s, to have been caught watching that.
Yeah. Red Dog. I didn't mind Raw Underground. Just wish Samoa Joe was the host and not Shane. # Shane's not cool.
Oh man, Samoa Joe was wicked on this show.
Forgot how much I missed him as a wrestler, which is just, come on, WWE. How do you make me miss Samoa Joe as a wrestler? Why is he on commentary? Devante Lee, send Black to Underground and let him just knock people's heads off and eventually go back to Raw to actually win and challenge for titles.
But again, you've got that sort of going back into the wrestling, the simulated wrestling world, which I think is quite a jarring thing there. Plus, Aleister Black hasn't got an eye now, and he needs to be repackaged into, I don't know, Shorty B or something.
Andre Banks, Raw Underground did feel like it was real fighting versus fake fighting. It felt like it was rules versus no rules. Also, the Seth and Tom stuff.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Doug Savona. So was that the real life Def Jam fight for New York?
Yeah,
I've seen a few people make Def Jam references.
I was going to say, a friend of mine sent that to me today, just showing a picture of their copies of it, being like, I really do need to play these again.
Yeah, what games they were. Christopher Collins. So did they create Underground just to have a place for Nia Jax?
Yeah, she's busy beating up Pat Buck.
Eddie Good, Shane starting Raw Underground is exactly why I watch you guys instead of WWE program. # Tony Khan pays the bills. Cheers,
Thanks,
Tony.
Cheers, mate.
Finally, for now, Danny Average. Is Underground just a veiled attempt to get that AEW demographic?
Absolutely not. It's to claw back the people that they've lost during the pandemic. That's who they're trying to get with this.
I think I don't know if they've ever sat down and thought about demographics, because that would require caring and listening to their audience, which they haven't done for decades. It's all trying to get to what Vince McMahon thinks people wants to see. That's the mark of a booker, right? Someone who can put on what they think people want to see. And unfortunately, Vince hasn't had that for almost 20 years now. So let's get on with the rest of the show, which had some really good bits on.
Oh yeah,
and also had some really bad stuff on.
Yeah, it was a packed old show. Like the reports from this show is that it was like chaos backstage, but way more chaos than we are quite used to. Like the reports were like, "Hey, if you thought it was bad 2 weeks ago, it's even worse." Like today, like apparently they were rewriting the show while they were filming it. The show they were taping afterwards wasn't finished, and they were like throwing things out. And watching the show, it really did feel like, let's just throw everything, like with every segment, just throw everything at the wall, and we'll just see what sticks. The only segment on this show that I felt like had some thought put behind it was the Randy Drew one. Like that felt like that had been a segment that they would have like set up last week and be like, yeah, we'll do the Randy Drew segment, because that was still within the storyline that they've been telling. Plus, this time they've managed to get Apollo Crews and Liv Morgan back now.
Do you want to take a guess? We used to play a game where we'd guess the box office numbers for films. Do you want to try what you reckon the rating's going to be?
Oh, okay. So last week was
1.61, I think.
1.61.
Was it lower? It's been around the 1.6 mark.
I think they're going to do 1.7. I think there is going to be a bump, because I think that saying that Shane's coming back, that's going to, so maybe even go up to 1.8. But I think Shane coming back, I think them saying their new format's coming in, and I think them saying a new faction is debuting, I think is going to bump up the ratings somewhat, even if that faction didn't actually debut.
Yeah, I'm going to say 1.9. I think Shane McMahon, unfortunately, is a one-off draw. But yeah, let's start off with the faction, because Raw opened with lights are flickering, and it cuts to Tom Phillips on the commentary table after they run down the card, and they say, we've been getting some really bad weather recently. And I just wanted to be like, put aside the whole idea that every time lights start getting interfered with at a wrestling show, it usually means someone's going to debut or return. Put that to one side, because there's certain things that you've got to get over to be able to tell stories. It's just like a hang-up. Like, why do people bounce off the ropes when you Irish whip them? But the fact that the company announced that a new faction was going to debut, and later on in the show, we get footage of 5 masked, they look like the ninjas, people throwing Molotov cocktails at a generator. How was that not picked up or heard by anyone there?
Well, that's because the show is being rewritten. So like Tom's rationale of it totally works if you continue that train of thought. But sometimes with this company, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. So they might not have known. I don't know. But like, I think them announcing it ahead of time probably that kind of ruins Tom's thing, which is a shame because him saying, oh, we're getting really bad weather at the moment and it's interfering. And throughout the night, they were like all the wrestlers were getting problems with their microphones. None of them said, oh, I wonder if this is that new faction that's debuting that Twitter announced a couple of hours ago. Makes everyone look a little bit dumb. But initially, I think I just wish they had made the tweet because it actually would have been really, really effective throughout.
Surely Shane McMahon's enough of all the things. If you're really trying to pop a rating.
The ratings are low. You've got to do everything.
Yeah, because I agree. I quite liked, got some bad weather going on at the moment. I thought it was really well sold, but the rest of the program just dismantled that.
And you mentioned the group. I'm just going to say it now. I thought it was the Ninjas. I thought it was Akira Tozawa's Ninjas, and I thought, why the hell are the Ninjas throwing Molotov cocktails? This seems like a very serious thing for such a wacky group to be doing.
Yeah.
I thought it was the Ninjas, man. And then it was only this morning in our morning meeting where Lou was like, yeah, that was the new faction. I was like, was it? Because they were dressed exactly as the Ninjas.
Akira Tozawa's really gone dark since winning the title. So the first match was MVP versus Apollo Crews for the United States title. Nice to have Crews back. I have missed him. The Hurt Business is one of the best things going in WWE right now. And in fact, the wrestling industry at large. They had a decent match. Love MVP. I just love MVP. The fact that he still can hang in the ring really well and be that good on the mic. How's it taken this long for him to come back?
Yeah, I thought that I really, really liked this match. Like you, I was really happy to see Crews back. Big fan of MVP and the Hurt Business. Yeah, I really, really liked this. And I thought the finish was great. I think Apollo Crews holding up the belt. He's the new Vince McMahon Family Guy character where his gimmick is, I've got a family. But yeah, which I don't think is the best character for Crews because we just see like it's every babyface that they try to push. It's just like, hey, I've got kids, and the kids want a role model, etc., because Vince is now a granddad. So that I don't really get on with, but I thought the match was really good, and I think Crews just finally putting an end to this was also great. I was surprised that we're getting a rematch at SummerSlam. I thought this is where Bobby would step in.
Yeah, that's the down note on this. I thought MVP cut a really good promo afterwards, felt really raw and realistic. And, he said, I don't care about Cruz's kids. I didn't care about him being a father. I want that title back. So he challenged him to a match at SummerSlam, which I'm not into seeing because I've just seen him lose definitively on TV.
Yeah.
Then we got a tease for the Underground. Banks and Bailey introduced their own video package, Such Heels. And Asuka sort of hacks it at the end, I guess.
What was she the SmackDown hacker?
This wasn't very well told visually.
No.
It looked like they just cut to an interview with Asuka at the end.
That's what I thought they had done. I've even written here, they cut to an interview with Asuka.
Yeah, but then it cuts back to Bailey and Banks, and they sold it like, oh my God, Asuka, this cut into our celebratory video package. How dare she? But then Baszler awesomely strolls up and comes across as so threatening and just punches Banks in the face.
Square in them. I loved this so much. Baszler walks up and just like, I've waited long enough to have some fun. Bang, just punched her straight in the face. It was so great. Like Banks and Bailey sold it brilliantly. This is the best that Baszler has looked since coming up to the main roster. It's not goofy biting people's necks. It's not running through people. Like I thought this made her look way better than her running through everyone in Elimination Chamber.
I totally agree. Yeah, she was pushed hard there. She was pushed hard in Survivor Series. She was even pushed hard in the Royal Rumble match, even though she didn't win. But man, if she debuted like this, just being a badass with character as opposed to just stuff in the ring, so much more effective.
Yep.
After that, we got Kevin Owens doing some iconic stuff backstage. It was quite funny. And then he had a KO show interview with Ruby Riott, his good friend. Ruby Riott, he introduced her as.
So I think they are friends. I'm pretty sure Kevin Owens has said that on podcasts before, but it's not something that's ever been established on TV. So yeah, I think it's quite cheap to be like, here's my close personal friend, Ruby Riott. So yeah, but I think you just sort of had to suspend some sort of disbelief. To be honest, I was more like, why isn't Kevin Owens more pissed off that Shane McMahon's back? Because he's got him out of the company, like their career versus career match, and on the first episode of SmackDown, he should be so annoyed that Shane 4 months later, when more than that, isn't it? It's like, 10 months later, whatever it was, has just walked back into the company and has now got his own promotion that's like Raw Underground. I thought he'd be absolutely fuming, but he's like, no, I don't want to talk about that. I'd rather talk about Ruby Riott and the Iconics. Why?
Oh, yeah. Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott, like on my priority list. I think getting the Riot Squad back together far outweighs this illegal fight ring that's opened up underneath me with my mortal foe.
Yeah.
Honestly. So this, Liv Morgan came down. There was some nice material here, like Ruby Riott referenced the shared tattoos they have, which is the date of their debut on Raw. Talked about getting the Riot Squad back together, making it better than ever. I'm like, guys, Sarah Logan, come on.
Man, poor Sarah. She did get
Overall,
name
though, overall, I thought this was pretty pants. I think if the guys did this segment, I'll be ripping into it quite hard. And I feel like I'm giving them a free pass because they're women.
Do you know what? I didn't mind it, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, the story's not great and everything, but I thought everyone's performances were pretty good. I thought Ruby was pretty good. I thought Kevin Owens was great in the segment. I thought the Iconics were very good heels. I think it falls down just because I don't think there's not a single person in this world that is bothered by a Riot Squad reunion. Like, that's why it doesn't work, is because who gives an S that the Riot Squad are reuniting?
Yeah, you're right. Maybe if I cared about the characters more, I would. Like, that would hook me in. But I didn't think it was very good at all. But I thought the match was bad with the Iconics. There seemed to be some miscommunication in the end. But Ruby and Liv stood tall, and they sort of gave each other this look, which was, let's get the band back together. And I just thought, oh my God, you said everything with one understated look right there. Yeah. Why did you have to do all the hokey acting in the segment beforehand? This is a much better way of telling that story.
It is a much better way. But I mean, also this story has completely fallen on its ass because for 2 weeks, Bianca Belair was playing the role of Liv Morgan.
Yeah, forgot about that. Okay. So it then goes to Charlie Caruso backstage.
Sorry, I just remembered this bit.
And she's pointing at this production crate that's fallen over.
Tom Phillips throws to her with an important report.
This is some big breaking news. Might explain why there's having some technical issues with the mics and the lights. And Caruso's there trying to sell how big a deal this fallen over production box is, which has some cables in.
Yeah, but Ollie, there are rumors circulating amongst the talent back here that this was no accident. These cables are on the floor. It's a trip hazard.
When we've done storylines on WrestleTalk, we've literally come in and go, oh my God, we've got to do that thing today. What should we, how do we tell this? What do we do the next thing? And we come up with something crap like this.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't thought it through. Honestly,
although, to be honest, I've written here like we're 1 year removed, just 1 year removed from Roman Reigns getting crushed by boxes. So I was just hoping that everyone was checking that Roman was okay after these boxes had fallen over. Like, he might have been watching at home with some PTSD.
Well, speaking of being surprise attacked, you'll never see it coming. Summerslam.
Last week, someone super chatted in saying, like, that's the name of SummerSlam, isn't it? It's SummerSlam. You'll never see it coming. And that person was bang on the banana. The show is called SummerSlam. I think it's You'll Never See It Coming SummerSlam, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
At this rate, you should call it You'll Never See It SummerSlam. So this was specifically on the graphic between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. They'll be fighting over the WWE Championship on the show, Universal Championship.
No, that's Braun Strowman.
Oh, I had a slight mind jar there. But the yeah, Drew came down. I thought he cut a really good promo, actually. This was one of the best things on the show, where he covered the usual ground of, I was fired, I fought my way back. And I'm like, I love you, Drew, but I'm a bit bored of this shtick now. But then he goes, bam, he turns it around into, but some of the stories I've heard about Randy Orton, he should have been fired a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, I was a bit concerned at the start of this promo because, it's all about I was fired, but it was also you only got into this position because of who your dad is. You only got into I wouldn't have got the chance to do. It's the same promo that Edge was cutting. Like, this literally was copied and pasted from Edge's promos that he was doing in the lead up to WrestleMania, which at this point feels like it was last year. So I was a bit concerned about that, but that was the twisting it round to be like, literally, he talked about Randy Orton having a crap in someone's bag. Like, he basically referenced that and talked about all of the bad stuff that Randy has done and being like, but they just let it by. Me and Adam were joking about this on a Patreon podcast recently, that Randy Orton is why the welfare, the wellness check policy rules were changed, because it was initially supposed to be suspended for 30 days. If you got failed twice, you're suspended for 60 days. If you fail a third time, you're fired. And Randy was the first person to fail it 3 times. And they weren't going to fire Randy Orton. So they just said, oh, actually, you can work off your other suspensions. And Randy Orton has worked off his suspensions.
Force field, you can't hit me, actually. I've got a force field on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was, it didn't say that outright, but it was a reference to those things. But the people who know, they know. And the people who don't know, it still works, because you're like, oh, yeah, he kicks people in the head.
Exactly.
So, oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say exactly. Yeah. I was disagreeing.
So really, really good stuff. He lost me a bit again, unfortunately, when he started saying how, hey, I watched the Last Ride documentary on the WWE Network, plug, shill, plug. And Undertaker, he let guys come up to his level. He brought people up to his level. But you, Randy, you kept people down. And I just,
Yeah.
I'm sort of sick of this whole mentality in WWE where these people who are very excellent can't just go and become the champion by themselves off their own skill. It's this mindset that no, stuff is awarded to you. You work hard for stuff, kind of the John Cena era of babyface mode, when really the most exciting stuff are the people who just sort of disrespect everyone and go straight to the top. That's what the Attitude Era is based on. Disrespect people. Here's my dick in your face.
Yeah. It was, yeah. Like, I thought Drew is such a good promo that he overcame a lot of sort of like the problematic parts of it. And I use the problematic because you're right. Like, hey, the Undertaker is a legend, and you can watch his documentary on the network. It is only $9.99 for new subscribers. But I thought Orton coming out with Flair's back as well. I thought Orton cut a really good promo as well, saying, like, I've not been fired. I'm too valuable to the company. I thought that was a really, really good line. And then I loved this when he kind of referenced the fact that Drew's promo was recycled material. It was like, I dare you to come up with an original opinion about me. And it almost felt like he was challenging the writers to be like, I dare you to write a new promo against me.
So after that, it was a very effective segment. Ric Flair approaches Kevin Owens backstage. Sort of offers him his managerial services. Kay's like, I've done the bad guy shtick. I'm going to make it on my own way. But I'll happily face Orton next week. So that's happening next week.
Yeah, very nice.
Nia Jax. It was Pat Buck.
Yes.
The ginger guy. I didn't recognize him because when I've seen pictures of him, he's had his like head shaved or a hat on.
But they
giant ginger locks.
They did say his name on commentary as well.
So Nia Jax went to apologize to him for beating him up last week, but instead challenged him to a match, and he suspended her without pay, which was, it was a bit weird because he's not been set up as an authority figure or someone who has the power to do that.
No.
And Nia headbutts him and then walks away.
I did think it was really funny that she headbutted him and he rolled out to the floor, and you could just see, like, it was almost like a Nia Jax face print where all of her makeup had come off on his shirt. It was like, that bit in Forrest Gump when he hands that bloke the towel, the shirt, and he rubs on his face and it's got the smiley face thing.
After that, we got a quick little match, triple threat between R-Truth, Tozawa, and Benjamin. This is where Benjamin lost the 24/7 title to Akira Tozawa. Her business was looking good, but they got distracted beating up ninjas.
Well, as Todd Phillips put it, they were outsmarted by the ninjas.
Yeah, so doesn't really make them look good. Then we got the Dominik cut a promo, which was okay. Shayna Baszler then took on Sasha Banks. And while they were wrestling, I thought this is my match of the night.
Yep.
This is a hell of a match.
So
they
good.
were working it really, really smartly. Baszler was using her sort of, her lethal submission game. There was this great double underhook suplex into an armbar transition, whereas Banks was like, no slouch.
Mm-hmm.
She's really presenting herself well as the boss again right now. And Bayley sort of caused a bit of a distraction, allowed Banks to get on top, work over the arm, I think it was. And this was really, really good. And I was thinking, it's not going to finish clean because this has got to go onto a pay-per-view. But I'm okay with that because that's what I want to happen. But what did it cost, Luke?
So the way that this match finished, because like you, my note is here is like, well, this isn't getting a finish. And, nor should it really, whatever. And the finish of this was Asuka ran down and beat up Bayley, who's not in the match. And the referee called for the DQ. Well, a no contest, I guess. Because it's not DQ.
Yeah.
It can't be a DQ. And it's like, why did the referee call for the match to be called off? Like this happened all the time.
Yeah.
It was absolutely nonsense.
I hated it. It was terrible. It didn't make any sense. It makes you ask questions. The worst stuff for me is the stuff that sort of puts holes everywhere else. It's like double bad. So now it's like, oh, well, why doesn't that happen in this match? In this match, I saw it on this show as well. So really, really bad stuff. Really lazy as well. And to be honest, quite disrespectful to the viewer to just pull that kind of stuff. But the stuff afterwards I thought was really good, aside from Charlie Caruso interviewing Asuka in the ring and making her watch quite a long promo about how she lost the title and then Kairi Sane was beaten up brutally to the extent where she's left the company. And then she's like, now you may speak.
Mean Charlie is back in full force.
But Asuka challenged Banks for a SummerSlam match.
Yep.
And then the camera just pans out slightly and Shayna's like, yeah, good luck. I was like, when was Shayna there?
I'm here. I'm right here. Like, where did Baszler go? Like, after when it came back, I was like, where did Baszler like Thanos away to? No, she was just standing there. Like, I've been here the whole time. And she gets in and she hopes that Asuka does beat Banks. She's going to be cheering on because she wants to dismantle Asuka, which I thought was really, really badass. And then Banks and Bayley, who were literally just in the segment, did their entrance again. Like their entrance music hits, they could come out. And this was my favorite bit of the match was great, but the finish sucked. But this was my favorite bit, which is where Banks says that Asuka can have her match at SummerSlam if she can beat one of the four horsewomen, a former NXT champion, Bayley. And Bayley's face is just like, what? No, I don't want to face Asuka next week. Which is exactly what Bayley was doing with Banks when Banks didn't have any titles. This was wonderful.
Really, really good stuff. Also, Sasha went, another four horsewoman. Woo. Bayley. I was like, I thought that was so well worked. Also, so this was, top to bottom, apart from that stupid finish. Brilliant. A brilliant segment. The in-ring action was great. I love all the characters. They've seamlessly worked Baszler into this feud to make it feel really multi-dimensional. I love what Pritchard has done with the role models and their storylines on Raw. But it's such an easy fix. Why can't Asuka just run in and beat up Banks?
Yeah.
That causes the DQ. It follows on from last week. It also creates more tension between Baszler and Asuka because, Baszler lost the match by DQ in that version of events. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's one thing that I would have done to have improved this, which was to have taken it off TV and put it onto their YouTube channel.
Zing. Vince outbid you, Tony. We now only answer to McMahon. Angel Garza is flirting with Demi Burnett from The Bachelor backstage.
Cool.
Really great contained set. That's what you want, isn't it? You just want only the people who are needed there on the day. You wouldn't want to waste sort of pandemic measures on just a random celebrity who's not going to pop a rating at all, would you?
Dude, the ratings are low. You've got to... Do you know what else pops a rating? Celebrities. That people, I'm going to assume in America, know.
Yeah. So then we got the Raw Underground stuff with Babatunde. And then we got... Is it
we've got the Street Profits stuff? So
yes.
Street Profits got this really cool promo beforehand. I thought Ford was awesome in all of this, and then Dawkins. I loved Dawkins. He said we've got a bond like James, which I thought was a really wicked line. It's almost like Enzo Amore style, like sort of wordplay that he used to do. And Dawkins says, I say the word fam a lot, but Montez Ford is my family. He's my brother. And then there was just, if you noticed it, Ford just takes a little sip of his drink and he's like, oh, that didn't taste particularly nice at all. It was never heavily referenced that, Ford, it was like in another time period of WWE, they would have said like, oh my God, Ford did not like the drink that he just put into his mouth. And they just showed like 10 replays of it. Here it was just like, he took the sip, it was like, oh God, no. Like if it played into nothing, it wouldn't have looked like anything. But then during the Dawkins Garza match, Ford is still like taking this drink and being like, oh, it's quite horrible. I was like, stop drinking it, mate. And sort of like, feeling a bit wobbly. And then he just collapses. And Dawkins gets distracted by this to allow Angel.
Oh, is Luke gone again? I think Luke is gone again because he's frozen for me. I'm going to push ahead with the Fords. You know what? I won't. I'll pause it there and I'll do some super chats until Luke can come back. I'm going to remove him from the stream. It's all Ollie again. Sorry about this, folks. So here's a few super chats. Will HM, take his eye, Joe. That's a reference to... Luke's back in the house. Can you hear us, Luke? He's moving in slow motion, so that's a no. There was that sort of heckler in the audience again, who's been doing some very funny yells. Bacon Rasher, hiya lads. We were all on an acid high last night. That was some trip and one hell of a show. I defo agree with your rating, Ollie. Hashtag WrestleLuke. Jam that jam. FTF. I'm not going to say that. El Fermentado. This felt like Raw jumped the shark. Big for ratings. I totally agree. Pat Bostis. So why didn't Sanity get the debut this new group got? Totally agree. That would have worked perfectly for their gimmick. Ooh-ah. Says, do you think Drew's promo was scripted? Seems so. I think they give him some scripts, but then mostly it's bullet points because a lot of it feels so Drew-like. But yeah, I think there's a mixture there. Luke's back, everybody.
Hello, sorry about that. Virgin Media. It's either Virgin Media are the big heels here. Either that or Tony Khan heard my comments and he has pulled the plug on my internet.
It's all the bandwidth that YouTube's using for the people watching the Deadly Draw. So carry on. Sorry, I went over the super chats while you were talking about Montez Ford and the Street Profits.
Yeah, and then like he collapsed and that led into the finish. And then WWE Doctors, for whatever reason, allowed Montez Ford to have a match. And then he collapsed again during that match, and the referee calls off and he calls down for a doctor to come and help him. They played this up like super, super seriously. And then they had this segment in the back where, Garza and Andrade and Vega are kind of chatting about it, and Dawkins comes out and says like he was poisoned, and Belair walks up with all this piss and vinegar being like, you poisoned my husband. And Vega's very on the defense, being like, it's not me. And this sort of huge brawl breaks out. I actually kind of dug this. I quite enjoy this, and I think it's definitely the new faction coming in, and I didn't mind it, mate. I thought I quite liked this, but that might just be because I really, really like the Street Profits.
Yes, do love the Street Profits. So I guess the new faction would go after the Raw Tag Team titles.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense, I suppose. I thought the poison stuff was stupid. I think if you're going to have the poison stuff, do it on a show where you haven't got so many other stupid things as well, because it just gets lost in the shuffle. Like we were talking today on the morning call, talking about all the crazy things. Then someone mentioned, oh yeah, and someone got poisoned, and we were like, oh my god, what was this episode?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're an hour into this stream, and we haven't even got to like the Seth Rollins, Dominik Mysterio stuff.
But it's a shame because I think there's a really good story here where Angel Garza and Andrade can beat the Street Profits individually, because Garza and Andrade don't actually work that well as a team. That's a story they've been telling, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But they're very good as singles wrestlers. However, the Street Profits are better together. They're more than the sum of their parts. And that's the dynamic you tell going into the tag title match. But they didn't tell that at all. They told the story of poison. Yeah,
to debut the new faction. Like this is bigger than like it's quite a telegraph in there. Andrade and Garza. Certainly, I mean, I don't think I had them down to win at SummerSlam anyway. But I think as a way to debut a new faction and get a tag team with the belts, I didn't mind it.
So yeah, we got the Eric Viking Raiders down in Raw Underground, and then that segment, and then we got we've already mentioned it. It's the security footage of 5 hooded people throwing Molotov cocktails at a generator that didn't really make sense with the rest of the show, but whatever, it's happening. I didn't think this was done very well. I guess it was done well in terms of like, here's some security footage. It's got a grain on. It's one static shot. And the explosions looked real, actually. What I didn't like was, the idea of an invading force, a new faction. That sounds, I'm always into that. I always am going to be. I love factions, particularly new ones before they've been ruined. But rather than like 5 people intimidatingly, scarily walk in and then light a Molotov cocktail and throw it, which is scary, right? That's pretty intriguing. They had 5 obnoxious people yipping around like kids. And it was so off-putting, so uncool, to borrow the underground criticism, that I just was like, I don't care about these jabronis.
I would. I mean, I've kind of made a few bets on this show already, even though I'm not a betting man. I would wager that the people in the ninja costumes, I thought it was, are not the actual faction that's debuting. I would almost put money on they don't know who is in this faction yet, because this faction's not the Undisputed Era. That's what we've heard. It's not the Undisputed Era getting called up. I don't think they know who's in the group.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I think the Undisputed Era might still appear, like they might still be the faction, but there was 5 people, right? Dominik Dijakovic. Isn't that the most main roster thing to do? Call up Undisputed Era, and Dominik Dijakovic is just this massive guy, because they can't get over if they're not tall, right?
No, they're tiny.
Then we got MVP walking around backstage being like, why is no one talking about the Fight Club next door? And we got one of the better things on the show as well, Seth Rollins coming out and addressing the viewers, but before he's got some business with Tom Phillips.
Yeah. So he talks of Tom. I asks Tom if he's unbiased, and he says, because I heard you last week cheering Dominik Mysterio on. You're supposed to be calling things down the middle. You're the voice of Monday Night Raw, and therefore a voice of the Monday Night Messiah in a way. I thought this segment was, and then like he's going to step up to Tom Phillips, and Samoa Joe, like the ultimate badass, just stands up, slightly undoes his waist jacket, and just goes like, "Not on my watch." Like just to blow his back, and he just cuts this promo on Rollins, being like, "You're not going to address my broadcast partner about this." Dominik Mysterio runs down, and they have a scuffle. My favorite bit about this is that Tom Phillips did no commentary over Dominik's attack on Seth Rollins. It's all Byron and it's all Joe. Tom Phillips stays silent throughout. And even when they go to this, like to the crew, Tom looks so scared. And he gives a little fist bump to Samoa Joe, but Joe's like hugging me and like, look at how amazing that was. That was so good that Dominik did that. Wasn't that great, Tom? Doesn't say a word. I thought it was really, really I mean, I don't know what it's leading to. Like, is it leading to Tom Phillips beating up Seth Rollins? I don't know, but like, I just thought the performances from everyone was really, really great. I was a fan of this.
Yeah, everyone really did excel here. Samoa Joe, I think, is easily the standout. He was so cool. And it's actually in canon because he was very briefly part of the Kevin Owens faction that was warring against the Monday Night Messiah faction back in February. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
For like that hot week when he returned between suspension and concussion.
Ultra
Unit.
Unit.
Like a million years ago. Ultra Unit. But also, I thought Dominik was really good here.
Yes.
He was really fluid, really fast.
Yes. So the other thing we should mention as well about the new faction, because I've just remembered that, because this is what, like, apparently WWE filed a trademark for the group name. It's called Just Us. So that's not 2 words. It's 1 word. They're called Just Us.
The Hounds of Just Us?
Did somebody say Just Us?
I definitely heard a female voice in there.
Yeah. I mean, like some people are already speculating. Tessa Blanchard is the female voice. Someone said that it's they think that it's that it's Belair, and she was the one who poisoned her own husband.
Oh, that'd be rubbish. But yes, that was the show, and then it was the Raw Underground bit at the end with the Hurt Business standing tall, like they own the joint now. So yes, a absolutely bonkers episode of Raw. I didn't actually give it a rating in my video earlier because it was so. I still don't really know how I think about it. It's been 8 hours now since I watched the show. What do I think? What do you think?
I'm kind of looking at it from 2 minds. One part of me is thinking that it's just like it's which is the cynical portion of my brain, which is that, man, this was the most desperate for ratings episode that we've had in 2020, because this is the first time in 2020 that they have been this desperate for ratings. And it felt quite sad that it was like this desperate for ratings, particularly because I think a lot of the things that we're getting on here aren't really going to matter in 3 to 4 weeks, because they'll just get bored of it and just be looking for the next thing that's going to be their new ratings bump.
Mm-hmm.
But as a show itself, like I quite enjoyed a lot of it. Like I think this is a high 3 out of 5 show. Like, because even like there was stuff on here that I enjoyed, but it didn't really like mean a whole bunch. But I thought Seth Rollins, I thought his segment was wicked. I really liked the Hurt Business. I think the Hurt Business are wicked. And I kind of liked a lot of stuff throughout the show. So yeah, I'm going to go a high 3 out of 5 for this show.
I think all the bad stuff is kind of outweighed by good stuff and intriguing. So yeah, I'll go 3 as well. 3 out of 5. Yeah. We've got a load of super chats still to get to, but before we do, we will read every single one out. So last call, ding, 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 get those in. Let's do our Patreon shout outs for our $25 a month or more pledge hammers. Thank you all so much. Nerf this, Eva Martinez. Woo.
Thank you so much. The Lunatic, John Moxley's Fringe.
Yeah. The Fitness Concierge, Scott Michael.
Oh, very good pronunciation. The Anomaly, CJ Warren.
Yes. The also Anomaly, Blake Anomaly Mancrafts.
Wonderwall, Brian Gallagher.
Thank you. The Mayor of Painesville, Dan.
Oh, absolutely, Dan. Yes, please, mate. The $100 Man, CD Horver.
Thank you. The Kessel Run, DX Solo.
Yes, good lads. The Rocket, Dan Van Sky.
Thank you. Check him out on Spotify. WrestleTalk's personal ring announcer, Rodrigo Benitez.
Thank you so much. And lastly for this list, no one calls their kid this anymore. Larry.
Thank you. And also thank you, Mod Mother Jenna, of course, as always, and Rob Jackson, one of our newer moderators, I believe. Right, so let's fire through all of these super chats. Nate Drop Surname. I got plenty to say about this Raw, but not much good. Can we just talk about the deadly draw instead of that train wreck? Tayanara Conti is great.
Yes, he was going by the name Tay Conti now. I thought there was a segment on this show, though. I think it was between these two that had some of the worst acting I have ever seen on a wrestling show. It is actually, I might even just like time clip it for you so you can go and watch it, but it is appalling.
Who's it between?
Between Anna Jay, Ty Conti, and Dasha Fuentes. It's shocking.
Oh dear. Rogue Ewan. According to Gary Cassidy, the 7'3" guard was Jordan Omagbehen, NXT recruit, aka Giant Ninja. So it was him.
The Giant Ninja.
The drinks guy is Ryan Ward. WWE VP of Creative Writing. That's where Ryan Ward is. Because he was sort of made the step down as SmackDown writer ages ago.
He was the great NXT writer that was then doing great SmackDown writing, and they were like, nope, I can't be having any of that. You're getting demoted, I'm afraid.
Mike D. So this week we had a wrestler being poisoned, another ridiculous DQ finish, and a Shane McMahon fight club with strippers. Well, I'm speechless.
My name's Mike D, and I'm the lady's choice. I want to get next to you, like Rolls Royce.
The Big Dog 2383 Acosta. I'll be honest, as weird as Raw was, with the lights going out and Raw Underground, it kept my attention. Drew is so awesome on the mic.
And that's what they want. They wanted people being so intrigued that they were going to watch from the first hour and then stick around for all three.
Mark Flay. Raw sounds legit mad. What the fudge?
It was.
Kevin, last super chat today. Samoa Joe is the effing best.
He sure was.
Dale Creasy. Shayna a face now? I think she's a tweener.
Yeah, I don't think she's a baby face. No, absolutely not.
Jeff Perullo. They're setting Dom up for success at least.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to like the guy who runs sort of like the little convenience store down at the end of the road. He's a big wrestling fan. He's got AJ Styles as his ringtone because I hear it every time I'm in the shop buying some beers and stuff. And I was just chatting to him because he very much likes you. And he was asking me, he was just like, what are they doing with Seth Rollins? And I was like, he's probably going to face Dom at SummerSlam. This is last week. And I said, he's probably going to face Dom at SummerSlam. He's like, no, surely not. He's not ready. And I was like, if there's anyone that can carry Dominik Mysterio to his first match, like just guide him through, Seth Rollins would be one of the guys I'd put him in there with. Just really hold his hand and just guide him through the motions.
Oblivious Carrie. My girlfriend overheard the poison segment and said, what the F? So you could say that about any segment, really.
Oh, yeah.
Taxel, I really like the Drew Randy segment. It feels like they just threw them out there and said, shoot.
I think it was probably a bit more staged than that, but yeah.
Andrew Gronick, I was thinking Shotzi Blackheart will be part of this new faction. This is the first week she wasn't in the crowd.
Well, I thought she was. I mean, you'd have spotted her, wouldn't you?
Michael Dominguez, Seth targets Joe, so Joe targets Becky like Wendy.
And let's not attack pregnant women. Come on now.
Becky. Mike Miguel 8A had some friends watching Raw and they thought it was a dumpster fire. I had no answers to give when they had questions about the terrible segments.
Can you imagine if you're the guy and you're like, everyone come round and watch Raw because they're going to do this like new crazy third hour and there's going to be this whole new faction debut. And the whole night people are just like, why is that happening? Who's this? What does that mean? And you're like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
That's on you, Miguel 8A. Why would you invite people round to watch Raw? Bonza Ray, why was The Fiend featured on Raw and why is nobody mentioning it?
So I thought this was just promos for SmackDown. Like I thought the feed that I watched just had promos for SmackDown to be like, tune in Fridays to watch SmackDown. And it ended with the let me in thing. So they just had like the little let me in thing. I don't think it was actually part of the Raw not as part of like the Fiend is invading Raw. That was what I surmised anyway.
I think that's very likely. Michael Dominguez, 2 Champs crew. Guess everyone has 2 belts.
Yeah, Cruz has got 2 belts as well now these days.
And finally from me, Ty Boogie. I love the Riot Squad reunion. Squad.
Oh, we found that guy. It's Sarah Logan. Thank you for watching, Sarah. Kevin is in the chats for WWE related. So it's official. The SummerSlam tagline is "You'll never see it coming," making its entry into the list of stupid taglines 2020.
Yeah, it's no good.
Justin Edelheit, it's my birthday. My wish for WWE is to get the Raw Women's Championship off of SmackDown's Sasha Banks. But she's a tag champ, so she can be on both brands. So it does work. But also, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Rich McCann, I was hoping that Ollie would have covered something of the deadly draw from last night. It was pretty good. Sadly, Brandy is not.
There was so much to cover today in the
Yeah.
news. There was the XFL, there was the stuff backstage at Raw, Shane McMahon's return, all the stuff on Raw. Sorry, it didn't make the cut.
He also adds, I don't think you're too tough on AEW for their women's division because it does need work, but you mock and belittle when they try something, especially when you've not watched the product. Not trying to be harsh, just a fair criticism.
Yeah, you're welcome to that criticism. I say I have watched the product and I've seen them do many starts at working towards something, and I was always very much behind them back then. And now I'm sort of past the point of giving them that leeway. I find it very frustrating, and I feel unfortunately the Deadly Draw is going to suffer the same fate.
Like, it's not even on Dark. Like, it's not even on their second tier show. I really thought this was going to be like, I thought it was a way to get the Nightmare Sisters more TV time, but yeah, no, apparently it was like it's on its own little YouTube channel that's not going to get the same numbers that putting it on TV would have done, which you could have done to elevate some of these characters. And it's a shame because when I was watching the intro package, and there's like a video with Brandy in the middle of it being like, I want women to be taken seriously. I want to have a voice. I want to be this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, why is this in YouTube? Why isn't this on your TV product? Because looking at let's have a look at the viewing figures for it at the moment. It's 200,000 this morning when I first started watching it. It's now at 300,000 viewers.
Pretty
so
good.
it's like, yeah, it's good, but it's like half of what the TV show gets on a really good week. Jobber JJ said, please get Pete on this show, #Raw, because Pete wanted to have a little rant about it. I don't think he likes the underground thing. Danny Average, Luke needs to check outside. I think I saw Sean Ross Sapp with a Molotov cocktail.
Oh my God.
Small Afro Games, Jaron Walker. Love you guys. Thanks, mate.
Love you too.
Shall I continue or do you want to carry
you
on?
finish it off.
Okay. Tasteless Nobody says, Ollie, I will get you to notice me, Senpai. Also, here's $5.
Hi, Tasteless Nobody. Thanks for the money.
Nate Drop surname. Maybe more of a mailbag question. Are we watching failing 2000 WCW levels of depression? I know WWE is financially okay and not going anywhere, but this is bad. If it wasn't for Drew, I guess that was great.
So it was desperation, not depression.
Oh, sorry.
I know it's not as bad as them, but they are doing their damnedest tribute act.
Yeah. Amro, off topic, but do you guys like Rick and Morty?
Love Rick and Morty.
I've never seen it. Nadavalia says, I think underground, rather than real versus fake, it's regular wrestling versus blood sport wrestling.
Yes, so it's almost like its own division, I suppose. I'm concerned how it's going to gel.
Yeah. Bacon Rasher, in case you hadn't noticed with my recent super chats, I won a Wrestle Luke t-shirt. Raw Underground, by the way, is round the corner from Clapham Junction.
On the underground.
The Big Dog Acosta says, FYI, I bought 2 t-shirts and can't wait to get them. I'll share pictures when I get them. Thank you for all you do with providing content.
Oh, thanks for supporting the channel and buying a t-shirt. Everyone else can go to WrestleTalkMerch.com.
And Dale Creasy says, could the hacker from SmackDown be on the show because we heard other voices? So hang on. Could the hackers from SmackDown, because we heard other voices, be the ones that caused the fire on Raw? So I think there's like, could this new faction be tied into the SmackDown hacker?
I think it's been dropped. Definitely. The whole hacker stuff.
And Danny Riggs says, Rick and Morty is great. I've heard that it is. It's yeah. I don't like the art style. That kind of puts me off from watching it.
I don't think you'd like it. I think it's great.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it does look a little like sort of lame South Park from 20 years ago.
Oh, can't you just say you just don't like it rather than crap on it and have controversial opinions? That's all we've got time for today. What a huge show, because there was so much to talk about. 80 minutes this episode. Thanks for sticking with us, folks, and thanks for all the lovely super chats you gave us and just spending your Tuesday afternoon with us. But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luke Owen. Go and check out all the other videos on WrestleTalk today and yesterday and in the future. Give us a subscribe. I've been Ollie Davis. I've already done that bit. That was wrestling.